Greetings and welcome to a special University of Minnesota Alumni Association webinar. My name is John Ruzek, and I'm the Senior Director of Alumni Networks for the University of Minnesota Alumni Association. Thank you to all the alumni, students, and friends who have made time to join us live today. You may not have known, but since the early 90s, mentor programs at the University of Minnesota have matched more than 16,000 students with alumni and friends of the university. These relationships have provided a learning experience for students outside the classroom and insight to career options after college. Our mentor programs here at the university are housed and managed within the collegiate units and their respective alumni societies. And today we're doing a special webinar featuring mentor pairings from 3 of those programs in the College of Pharmacy, College of Liberal Arts, specifically its School of Journalism and Mass Communication, and the College of Food, Agricultural, and Natural Resource Sciences. We'll cover some best practices, and whether you're a student or alum, you can learn to get the most out of mentoring today. And if you like these webinars, we do have some upcoming career webinars coming up on November 19th and December 17th. You can find those at minnesotaalumni.org/webinars. And also this webinar today is being recorded, and we'll have that up off of our website and our YouTube channel in a few business days afterwards. A few housekeeping items. If you haven't used GoToWebinar before, you have joined the presentation listening using your computer's speaker system by default. If you would prefer to listen over the telephone, just select telephone in the audio pane of your GoToWebinar panel, and dial-in information will be displayed. If you experience audio difficulties while listening via your computer speakers, this can be caused by having multiple software applications open, which can use up your computer's bandwidth and affect network performance. Also, if you're listening over a wireless signal versus a hard line, that can sometimes affect audio quality as well. So definitely feel free to close any unnecessary applications on your computer. We are definitely welcoming questions today from whether you're a student in a mentor pairing or a mentor yourself or someone who's just interested in mentorship. We'd love to get your questions. You can type them in your questions pane on your GoToWebinar control panel. I'll be monitoring them along the way, so please submit your questions, ideas, or tips because we do want to hear from you. I will be monitoring the question stream. I am a one-person show today as far as behind the scenes here, so if I'm not able to type in a response to your question, you know why, but I will try to verbally address questions that you have. And now I'd like to welcome our first pairing today from the University of Minnesota's College of Pharmacy. I'd like to welcome Michelle Atay and Josh Vandelhusen. And what we're going to do with each of the pairings is have them talk about their respective studies and career paths, where they are now as far as their organizations and what they do, and then just share a little bit of mentoring advice from their current relationship. And we'll go through our 3 pairings today and then open it up to some broader questions. So right off the bat, welcome Michelle and Josh.
Thank you.
So Michelle, why don't you kick off?
All right. Thank you, John, and thank you for allowing Josh and I to participate today. I'm a 1996 alum of the University of Minnesota College of Pharmacy, so proud maroon and gold alum. And I've been practicing pharmacy now for about 25 years, and 20 of those have been with Walgreens, and a variety of roles. I've had an opportunity to do some traditional dispensing. I've been in operations as a pharmacy supervisor, which is kind of where I met my mentee here, Josh. I was his former boss, and now he's my boss. So that'll be a takeaway today from this webinar. I've also had an opportunity to practice more on the clinical side, and I have my CDE, which is I'm a certified diabetes educator and love caring for patients with diabetes. My current role, I have the opportunity to train our pharmacists and students on immunizations and NTM and health testing and how to best take care of patients. And a little bit of advice that I would share today is, you know, being a mentor or a mentee, either side, you learn from each other, and it's important to have fun. And as I mentioned earlier, I used to be Josh's boss, and now he's my boss, so remember, it's a small world.
All right. So for me, I'm currently a district manager with Walgreens, and I first met Michelle, as she alluded to. I was actually my first year as a pharmacy student there at the University of Minnesota. So Michelle really showed a lot of interest in me and my future plans and kind of helped develop me. And, you know, from the beginning, Michelle encouraged me to do more than I thought I was ready for and always kind of pushed me to do a little bit more. So upon graduation in 2005, Michelle helped me to become a pharmacy manager with Walgreens, and then later developed my skills to become a pharmacy supervisor and now a district manager, which, as Michelle said, she now currently falls in under my district. So it's a really interesting situation for us. But so it's really just about growing that relationship and always keeping in touch. So my piece of advice is to always be open with your mentor so they can guide you appropriately. Too many times we try to look like we know the answers or try to look like we're smart, and instead of opening and letting down our guard so that somebody can help us and have our best interest at heart. So just always being open and honest, I think, will really help you get the most out of your relationships.
That's great. Thank you so much, Michelle and Josh, and we'll be coming back to you here in a few minutes after we do the introductions. So now I will unmute Katie and Mary. Just give me 1 second. Would like to welcome alums Mary Tan and Katie Bertram, both from the School of Journalism and Mass Communication, which is a school within the College of Liberal Arts here at the University of Minnesota. Mary and Katie, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Mary.
Well, I'm Mary Tan, and I got my bachelor's degree at the School of Journalism in 1993, and I focused on broadcast journalism. So the first 10 years of my career, I was actually a TV reporter and anchor all over the country, and then I came here to the Twin Cities where I worked at WCCO TV, and I just got tired of working the crazy hours, and I was always in bad weather and doing crime stories, and I was like, I need a change. And so then I went into government communications, where I now work for the city of Brooklyn Park, where I handle all the internal and external communications and everything that can happen in a city. I usually deal with. And this is also where I had the opportunity to meet Katie, because she was my mentee, and she was one of my very best. And I think mentoring is a wonderful thing, and I have gotten so much out of it, especially from dealing with folks like Katie, who I actually have learned a lot from. She's now in digital communications, and I'm sure she knows more than I do.
Well, thank you. I don't know about that, but I'll introduce myself. I'm Katie Bertram. I graduated from the School of Journalism in 2010 with an emphasis in PR and advertising, which I actually met Mary my senior year. She became my mentor. I currently work at Edelman in Washington, D.C. It's a communications marketing agency, so I do digital strategy for a variety of clients. And I would say, you know, it's just about, my mentorship advice would be that it's about accountability and being clear with your intention. Is that I think Mary and I were really good about keeping up on each other in terms of scheduling meetings and keeping open communication with what we hope to get from one another. So here we are 5 years later, we still keep in touch and usually meet up for lunch. So I think it's really great. And having had such a great mentor with Mary, I can tell that now that I've just been in the industry for a while and I have the ability to mentor other people, that it's something that's really important to me to help others out like Mary helped me.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie and Mary. And now, last but not least, we will move to Stacy Vosberg, who's a alumna of the College of Food, Agricultural, and Natural Resource Sciences. And we had hoped Tate Moeller was going to join us, but I don't know if there's technical difficulties. I don't believe Tate is on the line. So Stacy, just would love to hear your background as far as what your studies were at CFANS, what your career path has been, what you're doing now, and some of your advice from your mentoring experience.
Absolutely, and I was exchanging texts with Tate, and I believe she said she got on. It was a little bit of technical difficulties, but I think she should be on.
Okay, I'll keep
my
my eyes out
background,
for her.
okay, yeah, she just texted me. I'm on the line. I hear everything, so maybe she wasn't able to get in as a panelist.
Got it.
And
Okay.
doesn't have speaking. I don't know.
Okay.
But so yes, I graduated from the University of Minnesota in '06. Back then it was co-ops, College of Agriculture, Food, and Environmental Sciences, so a little bit changed, but still same idea. My bachelor's is in agriculture and food business management, and so that's one of the only degrees that's not through Carlson that you can get a Carlson minor. At least that was the case at the time. So I took a lot of courses over in Carlson, so kind of split between, think of applied economics and a business degree is a good way to think about that. And I was a part of the program actually in my undergrad, and it was a super valuable experience for me. I got set up with a really great mentor who was in food marketing for Green Giant Fresh, and people always ask me, what are you going to do with food business? And I said, well, I'm going to go into marketing for General Mills. And you know, it was enough to keep people quiet, or at least think, okay, she knows what she wants. And so it was great to have a mentor who was in that area and to really understand what she did day to day. And after I graduated, it was one of the things that I wanted to do once I had enough work experience under my belt to give back and come back to the University of Minnesota and be a mentor. So I've been a mentor for CFANS for the past, this is my 5th year, and Tate and I worked together last year, and it was awesome. Very instant connection. She's a go-getter. A lot of the things that, you know, I felt of myself when I was in college, I see in her, and it's been just a blast working with her and kind of living vicariously through her study abroad travels that she's planning next spring and all of the cool coursework and things that she's doing. So it's been really awesome for me to be able to give back and then also to learn. So I think my biggest piece of advice is continuing to understand, be curious, ask questions, and figure out how you can learn. Right now I work for Target. I've been here about 5 years. Just moved over to a new team about a month ago, so I came in as a buyer and bought a lot of different things from cheese to air fresheners to natural cleaning products, and now I am on the newly formed wellness team working on cross-company initiatives to help move wellness forward at Target.
Awesome, and thank you so much for that background. And Tate, if you can hear me, I'm trying to keep an eye out for you if I can get you in on the convo. I'm not seeing it, but if I can loop you in, I will do that ASAP. Or if you have other comments, you can maybe text them to Stacy, and she can chime in as appropriate too. So, well, what I'm going to do now is going to get everyone back on the line here, and we're going to move into some questions. And for those of you who are out there in the audience, now's a great time, if you do have questions, to start typing them in the question pane. I'm just going to start off to get the ball rolling. I'm going to throw a question out to the panel as far as whether from your own experience being mentored or being a mentor yourself, what would you say are maybe common mistakes that you've seen students make in a mentoring relationship? And maybe start off with Mary and Katie on this one.
Well, I definitely, I've been mentoring for a few years at the University of Minnesota, and I have had some wonderful mentees like Katie, and then I've had some, questionable ones who kind of turned out to be duds, sorry to say. My biggest issue with the ones that didn't work out was follow through. So at the School of Journalism, we have a mentor kickoff breakfast where the mentors and the mentees meet for the first time. I would meet with two in particular I met with at the breakfast, and I gave them my contact information, and we had discussed, meeting and schedules and different things like that. And then when it came, a few weeks later, I never heard anything back from them. And so I wondered what happened, and I sort of feel like they kind of blew the opportunity because I was ready to take time out of my schedule to assist them, and they didn't take advantage of the opportunity. And I really feel that, when you're in college and you're looking for that first job, you need to take advantage of all the opportunities. You need to go after them, and you need to take advantage of the ones that come your way.
Yeah, and kind of to expand off of that, I think as a mentee to understand that, your mentor is a busy working professional, and so you should take it upon yourself to take that initiative, to email your mentor on when works for them, to keep up on the schedule, and just make it easy and at least convenient for them to take time out of their work day or whenever works best. But for you just to take the lead on scheduling those and following up, versus putting all of that on your mentor, because really, the mentee does benefit by having access to this person for guidance and help. So I think it's the least you can do to get things started and streamlined.
Mm-hmm. Do any of the other panelists have any thoughts on this? And if not, that's certainly okay too. And actually, I'm going to try. I don't know. I see Tate over on the attendee side, so I'm gonna try. I'm unmuting you. Tate, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Excellent. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Well, welcome. I want to give you the opportunity, like the other panelists, as far as just introducing yourself, and you bring a good perspective because you're a current student here at the University of Minnesota. And so just tell us a little bit about your area of studies, and then any I think best practices that you've gleaned from your mentoring experiences.
Yeah, so kind of I joined the major, same thing as Stacy, same reasons. Knew I wanted to do business of some sort. This linked me to the Carlson School, but kept me in smaller class sizes, and had a lot of resources. When I met with the transfer advisor, it really sounded like a good fit for me. So as a sophomore, I transferred in fall of sophomore year, so a year ago today, around this time, and I right away kind of was like, I didn't know anyone else in the major, and so I found the mentor program through the College of Food and Ag, and I thought, okay, well, that'd be a great idea since I don't know anyone who's in the major and what they've done with it, like I could be linked with someone who has. So that's kind of what led me to apply, and I got really lucky, and Stacy and I had a lot in common of like what she did in college and then where I'm at. So like advice for people considering the mentor program, I'd say the earlier the better, because like if you do it right away sophomore year, I mean, because a lot of people sophomore year don't know if they're in the right major, they don't know if they're on a good track, all the resources, opportunities out there for you. And then, sophomore year, if you find out like, oh, well, I didn't really want to do what that person was doing, like with your mentor, you could always have another one junior or senior year.
Excellent. Thank you. And actually, I'll pose this question to Stacy and Tate, and then others can chime in as they would like, is that often a common concern from students is that they won't know what to talk about or how to plan topics for their conversations, or if they have monthly check-ins with their mentors, how to, plan things to talk about. Specifically starting off with Stacy and Tate, how did you two kind of navigate that as far as breaking the ice, kind of figuring out the things that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, so Stacey. Oh, go ahead, Tate.
Okay, well, in like last year as a sophomore, like it's really hard to get internships and things for the summer after sophomore year. A lot of times they're looking for juniors. So for last year, a lot of it was based around helping me with my resume in the fall and looking at what's out there. And I was currently applying to be like an orientation leader at the U. So she gave me like interviewing tips and things like that. And so that helped me out a lot. So basically it's just kind of whatever is currently going on with me, or if I'm having problems, that's kind of how we base. And then like this year, kind of the same thing. Like we just met a few weeks ago, kind of around the same thing, like looking at all the opportunities out there for me and like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know,
Yeah,
Stacey.
I agree. Though, yeah, a couple of things to add. A lot of it was just kind of understanding what's I just say, Tate, what's going on in your life. Like, tell me what classes you're taking, what are you doing. She's in the sorority. I was in the sorority in college too, and so constantly there's activities going on and different things that she's working on, whether it was as her sorority's philanthropy chair planning their charitable event or studying for midterms, but it was just kind of, how we would start all of our conversations, what's going on right now, what keeps you up at night, what do you need help with, how can I help out, and just kind of asking a lot of questions and listening, and just as a mentor being an active listener and trying to figure out, okay, where can I help, where can I provide input, and then when it came down to things like interviewing, applying for jobs, resume, there's things that I'm good at, there's things that I'm not good at. The things that I'm not good at, I would suggest going to the Career Center, for example. I'll provide my input for resume, but another gut check or another good source is going to the Career Center. They have experts on staff, and just utilizing all the resources that you guys as students have right, within steps of your classrooms and of where you live. So a lot of those things I know from my time as a mentor, a lot of the mentees I've worked with don't even know exist. And so it's more just sharing with them some of the ideas of things that are already available.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's so important just as far as the role of alumni, that I see the role that alumni play, whether in formal mentor programs or just informally, is letting, just kind of reinforcing to students about those resources that might be there, might have not been on their radar before. Michelle and Josh, how did you two kind of go about initially kind of setting the types of topics and things that you two wanted to cover during your mentoring relationship?
So for me, it was just coming kind of with a recap type of focus as we went into the monthly ones. Obviously the first one, it's introductions, it's kind of just getting to know each other and how you might work together. But as you get to those monthly pieces and trying to figure out what you're going to cover, it's really easiest just to go with the simple, what's going well for you, where are you getting stuck or getting overwhelmed, and then what do we want to do to help get through that and navigate that and kind of coming to an agreement of what that might look like. And then as you just continue to process through that, then it's very simple to keep those conversations going with, hey, last time we talked about you were feeling really stuck here. How did that turn out? What have you done? And where do you still need guidance on that?
One thing that's unique about our mentoring relationship is, Josh, I can't remember how many years ago it began.
Almost 15.
15 years ago, and Josh, although he's a U of M alum, moved away for a while, and even when Josh moved away, I was still kind of connected and seeing what he was doing with his career, and both professionally and personally. So I think those long-lasting relationships and kind of keeping that connection are really, something that's important and that benefits both.
Mm-hmm. Kind of building off that, and I'll direct this at Mary and Katie first. Is talk a little bit about that, and whether from your own mentoring relationship or others that you've been in, kind of that importance of continuing to keep that professional relationship warm or active as far as staying in touch with people and the importance that is to a person's professional network long term.
For me personally, it's been it's a wonderful experience to keep my relationship going with Katie, because as she has grown through her through graduation and her career, I am just seeing this amazing person blossom professionally, and she will talk about things that I have no idea about. She is in, she's in digital engagement and all these new things that I don't necessarily deal with as a government communicator, but it's so interesting, and I get so much out of it talking to her. Um, and it's a wonderful feeling to know that you've helped somebody grow through their career, and you have a great friend that comes out of it as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think just with Mary's initial background being in broadcast, she took me on a newsroom tour and just showed me some of that. So even as a college student, I think it's a really great way to get a glimpse into the professional world and what that's like, and just navigating day-to-day, office things that you don't always think about because it's just something you learn once you get a real job. And so I think that that was always important, and it's just been nice to keep in touch, for specific work updates on what we're doing, just to continue to learn from one another, but also just the general day-to-day stuff and what we're dealing with, and how that aligns and how we can help each other and support each other. So it's really great to continue the relationship even after the program.
Mm-hmm. Do any other of the pairings have comments on that one?
Yeah, this is Tate again. I'll just say, like, every time Stacy and I meet, I go and meet her where she works at Target Corporate in downtown Minneapolis, and just kind of being in a corporate setting, it makes it feel more professional and kind of pushes me outside of my boundaries, something that, like, not many, especially sophomores, are used to doing, and it just kind of makes me think in a bigger perspective, like, just at like seeing like where I want to get to, kind of like more of she's like a role model, and it's like, okay, what am I doing currently in college, like how can I get here? And it reminds me of like I should always be involved and working on things like that.
That's a great point. Thank you. Now, and Mary had touched on it just as far as how people are still able to learn from their former mentees, years after. But let's this question that was submitted online, and again, if you do have questions for those of you attending online, feel free to write them in, and I'd be happy to run them by our panelists. But we have one question that came in that was talking about to those mentors is how have mentors learned from students? So think about your mentoring relationship when the mentee was actually a student, and maybe talk about things that you've learned from students while they've been in the mentor program. And the question was framed from one of my colleagues here at the U, because she feels that students often feel like they have so much to learn and maybe not as much to contribute. But, I think at least from some of the things I'm hearing right now, is as far as that, it definitely can be a two-way street. And I'll kick it off to Michelle and Josh on that particular question.
Yeah, I would definitely agree that it's a two-way. A lot of times I think we as a mentor get as much out of that mentoring relationship as the mentee, whether or not they know it at the time or not, but it's always great to find out, the mentor's history, where they're coming from, and then also, I think it's been mentioned during the webinar today, but to really see them grow professionally and throughout their careers. And so that's really rewarding, and probably one of the most rewarding parts about it is, really seeing them grow throughout their professional career and maintaining contact, and definitely goes both ways.
Mary and Katie, do you have any perspective on that?
Oh, absolutely. In the communications and public relations field, I am constantly asking my mentees, especially those who are younger, how can we reach, millennials and the younger generation? And it's so awesome. They give me such great advice. I work for a city that has, it's a very young city. 30% of our residents are under 18, and we're always trying to find ways to reach our younger folks, and I constantly use mentees and actually students at the U all the time. I ask them, how can I reach these people through a campaign to try to get more youth involvement and that sort of thing?
Mm-hmm. Now, thinking about the initial stages of a mentoring relationship, from your individual experiences, whether together or with other mentees, what would you say are good ground rules to establish at the beginning of a mentoring relationship? And I'll direct this one to Stacy and Tate to begin with. So I don't know if from your mentoring relationship, they don't have to be like super formal, but what type of ground rules or understanding did you two kind of set out right away?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for, I guess, all the mentor-mentee relationships I've had is that initial kickoff meeting, and CFANS has kind of an evening reception where you meet, and it's pretty much for the first time because they do the selection of mentors usually the week before, and at that meeting is where I find it super valuable just to go through kind of those ground rules. And for me, it's been around, okay, what do you want out of the program? Because CFANS, there's an application process on both ends, and so kind of listing out what the mentor and the mentee were hoping to get out of the program, I think, is valuable, so you can make sure that over the course of your months together, you can address those things. And then kind of the tactical details of what's schedule like, where are we going to meet, getting the first couple meetings on the calendar, because then you know they're going to happen. What I've found in instances where I haven't done that, one, the meetings haven't been as meaningful because we didn't align up front for what our expectations were and what we wanted to get out of the relationship. And two, if we didn't set up those initial meetings, you play a lot of phone tag back and forth trying to figure out schedules that work, and then sometimes you get it scheduled on time, sometimes you don't, and when you were supposed to meet monthly, now maybe you're meeting once every other month, maybe only 2-3 times over the course of that school year. So I think just those would be the two things: scheduling, because it just has to happen, and then two, figuring out what each side wants to get out of it, so you know up front and have those expectations known.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and with that too, like when I have been emailing Stacy to set up a meeting, like I'll generally say like, this is what I'm struggling with right now, I'd really like to talk about this, etc. And so like she said, coming prepared, knowing what you're going to cover, and then also, I don't know if you're going to touch on this at all, but making the most of the job shadow, because when I job shadowed Stacy in the spring, she had a great half day set up for me. I met so many people that she works with, and like it definitely made a huge difference. And like I know I've heard like some people don't even schedule a job shadow. I just think it's like really crucial.
One quick thing that I would chime in on for the job shadow is, in like Tate said, I planned a lot of different people for her to meet with. Basically, one person from every function on my core department, and then I also had her meet with one of my key vendors, and one person from each core function over there. So probably about at least 20, if not 30 people over the course of that half day. But it was because we had a great relationship, and it was great rapport. I felt really comfortable and confident in her coming to my office and meeting with all of my coworkers, and for me to extend kind of my network of people to her. It happened because we have a strong trust built up from the beginning that I didn't have with a lot of other mentees, because they didn't show up to meetings, they didn't respond on time, they weren't punctual, like all of those little things. So I think it's having that solid foundation will open you up to a lot of really cool experiences. And the job shadow, I think, is definitely one of the most valuable pieces of the mentorship program. I know CFANS requires it. I'm not sure about the other programs, but I even did it when I was in my undergrad, and I think it's helpful because, one, it helps you understand what you don't want to do as much as what you do want to do, the more different roles and responsibilities that you get to see and experience.
Mary and Katie, do you have any thoughts as far as whether initial ground rules you set with each other, or kind of in the vein of the question that was just asked?
Yeah, I think it's good to set initial, what they just said, schedules and intentions, that I wanted some, support and feedback on resumes, interview questions, just what I was navigating through, and also to learn more about Mary's career path and how she got to where she was and decisions that she made. So I think that that's good from the get-go. And then I think you just let the relationship also evolve organically, that Mary and I just ended up getting along really well. And I think we saw professional aspects in each other that we really liked, because she actually did end up hiring me for the communication specialist position when it did open. But I definitely didn't go into the mentorship with that expectation. But I think we just, clicked that we would work well together, and we did. So it definitely evolved from there naturally.
That's so true. I know some mentees think that the relationship might mean a job in the future. With Katie, it was sort of an accident, and she was kind of at the right place at the right time. I don't have that position available all the time, so that's one thing I kind of tread lightly when I am talking to mentees, trying to tell them that it's not necessarily going to lead to an internship or a job.
Right.
But but if you're an impressive person, boy, you're going to be on my list.
Yeah. And and actually this that segues great into one of the questions I was just thinking about, is what advice, whether from a student perspective or from a mentor perspective, and I'll direct this first to Michelle and Josh, and then we can check in with the other pairs, is talk a little bit about how, let's say, a potential mentee can respectfully and informatively inquire about jobs in a certain field, or explore possible opportunities within a company without just like outright, oftentimes we say in mentoring relationships, don't ask for a job, or you say that at networking events and things like that. What have been either your experiences from a mentoring relationship or just personally about how you go about kind of doing that due diligence about those types of opportunities, whether it's an internship or possible employment? And I'll direct that to Michelle and Josh from pharmacy.
Okay, so for me, I think a natural part of an intern, of a mentorship, is going to be asking those questions about future employment and how I might be a good candidate for a position. So I think just talking about and asking, the company you work for, what do they look for in an employee? What are they looking for in hiring? What type of positions are available in your company for entry-level positions? And just asking those questions, and then asking, what is something that I can do to better prepare myself to work for a company like your company? So it's asking to develop yourself, but still kind of putting out there that that this is a company I'd like to work for. But again, it's all about developing yourself, and whether it's with that company or a different company, those questions will give you the answers that you kind of need to make sure that you're in the right position to get a position with any company that's hiring.
Mm-hmm. Mary and Katie, do you have any additional thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think just showing my initiative on certain items and also expressing my interest and what I was hoping my career might turn into. Mary was always really great, even about sharing her network with me. You know, if she knew someone at a specific agency that she thought I would, you know, possibly be interested in, she was always willing to connect me with other people. So being proactive and just having those conversations, and, you know, her sharing what she was comfortable with. But also, when I started working for her, I definitely had an interest in moving outside of Minnesota, and she was so great in motivating me to tell me how she had went to New York for a while and how she approached that. And she could just chat with me and give me advice that after we would talk, I would go and spend a couple hours looking for jobs and applying. So there was definitely that factor where I feel like she pushed me, you know, providing me with some necessary resources to get there. And sure enough, you know, upon graduation, I had a job offer here in BC and ended up moving. So it was really great.
Yeah, one thing to remember is that even, for example, if your mentor isn't working in necessarily the area that you had dreamed of or had thought of, looking for a job is pretty universal, and the principles are the same. Good people are going to be hired, and you can learn so much from anybody who has had a job and has had more experience than you. So I always urge you to take advantage of the people around you and really use your mentor no matter what they do.
I absolutely agree on that. You know, I've heard that sometimes as a common refrain as far as whether it's an alum or student who's at a networking event or maybe in a mentoring relationship, and their first instinct is to say, well, I didn't meet, you know, this, you know, particular person who works for a particular company or in this particular field. But I think the more you open yourself up to meeting other people, and then I think especially sometimes in mentoring relationships, even though the colleges I know really try to go the extra mile to try to match people up as best they can. You know, there isn't always going to be perfect matches, but making the most of that opportunity, because as Mary and others have alluded to, is that you can, you know, maybe that person isn't in the exact field you want to go. They might be in that field you decide you want to go into 5 or 10 years from now, or a person they went to school with is now in that field, and you know, kind of as you build your professional network, your degrees of connection become, you know, fewer and fewer, and so it becomes a much smaller world. So I would definitely echo that as far as making sure to really leverage all those different types of opportunities, because there is a lot that can be learned, and even if somebody's in a different field and you learn a little bit more about what they do, you know, that can be a good exposure to possibly moving into that field, or it just reaffirms that that's absolutely nothing I want to do. So one person had commented online as far as how our, you know, mentor programs define success, and that is it a mentoring relationship that lasts quote unquote forever. And you know, definitely that's not always the case, and I won't even say that's you know, success, just because, you know, and I think a lot of the mentor programs are pretty upfront about it, is that, you know, oftentimes they are for the formal ones that are here at the U, they're academic year-based programs that go from fall to about April, and sometimes the mentoring relationship can happen in that year, and that's great. And then, you know, really between the mentor and mentee, if they want to continue that onwards, then that's up to those two. And if that happens, that is absolutely wonderful. I don't think then that means like mentoring relationships that only last a year are not valuable, because I think they exist in all sorts of different ways. And that's one leads into a question that I just wanted to run by the group, is that if maybe talk about whether in your own professional work, um, outside of these formal mentor programs that you are great volunteers with and are involved with, talk about ways either you've tried to weave mentoring into your own work experience, or that you've received from others professionally, and in the value of that. Because I think sometimes students or alums who are maybe not from colleges where there's formal mentor programs here at the U sometimes feel like they're not able to give back, and just recognizing that there is other ways that a person can possibly help influence others, whether it's other coworkers or students. So I'll direct that maybe to start off with Stacy from CFANS, because I'd love to get your thoughts about kind of that informal mentoring that happens in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say it may be informal in life, but Target's pretty structured and formal. So
Yeah.
there is, and I would say a lot of organizations are, frankly, especially the larger ones in the Twin Cities, have more structured mentor programs. And that's not to say, you know, you start day one and they say, here's your mentor. You do have to seek them out, but it is a pretty common practice here that most people have one mentor, multiple mentors, and generally because you're moving around a lot, you may stay within one company for a long time, but you may have 4 or 5 different managers over the course of 5-10 years. Those are the people who know you best, know your strengths, know your weaknesses, should be clear champions of you if you're getting promoted over time, and they're the people to keep in touch with because they have networks throughout the organization and they can help you. They're people to bounce ideas off of, so for sure people who've been your managers before or your boss's bosses before. And the second one is, as you're starting off your first job or just being new to any company, as you're starting to meet with people, ask them like what's 1 or 2 other people I should meet with. And this is more just general practice. It doesn't need to be something that's done within one organization, but if you have an interest in one thing, ask that person you're talking to if they know anybody who has an interest in that you could talk to. And then just following up with them and setting up some time. And if you do hit it off and you build some rapport and you think they would be somebody who would be a good mentor, then ask them if you want it to be a more formal thing. And what does that mean to be a mentor? So similar to a question I was asked earlier, like what are those kind of ground rules that you want to establish? Is it a quarterly meeting? Is it what's the cadence, how often you want to meet? What are the things you want to talk about? What do you want to get out of the relationship? But mentors can be as informal or as formal as you want them to be. And it could be more business focused, more just interest focused. But it's kind of up to you to look for opportunities in everything you do and to seek those out.
Excellent. Michelle and Josh, do you have thoughts on that?
Everybody's doing such a great job on the webinar. I'm just thinking of things that can be added. I've seen a lot of value in mentoring. When I have a mentee, I really try to partner them with and introduce them to other mentors as well. So to kind of broaden their network, one thing that I've noticed on those early stages is how much they relate to somebody who may be a couple years older in their academic career. So for instance, partnering a resident with an intern and how that mentoring relationship works as well. So I think sometimes if you're formally serving as a mentor, that part of our role as a mentor is to introduce them to other people within the profession and outside the profession that could serve as mentors for them as well. And as far as informally, I just can't even put a value on how important that is and how important that's been throughout my professional career, and just see the value of the people who support you. And a lot of times, like I said, I know I've said it a lot of times that it goes both ways, but sometimes you serve as their mentor, sometimes they serve as your mentor, sometimes you're the mentee. So the value of those mentoring relationships as you go throughout your professional career, just I can't put enough value on that and how much that's meant to me throughout my professional career and working with others.
Yeah, and John, I would just add too, not to forget about organizations and professional organizations and finding those opportunities.
Yep.
To find mentor or mentees either way. Those are usually people pretty engaged in their career paths and are looking for opportunities to support others. So if you're a mentor or want to be a mentor, that's a great place to look, is some of those people that are, students or whatever, to attending some associations or committee events. And then as, as a student or a mentee looking for a mentor that you just maybe haven't found, that's again another great place to go and look for them, is at those associations and kind of asking around and who's involved here and who can I speak to.
Yeah, that's great advice, Josh. I know when Josh was a student, I remember some networking around a campfire at some of those professional association meetings. So
Yeah.
Being surrounded by others in those environments is a great opportunity.
Yeah, that's a excellent point, just because so many professional organizations often, even from a student perspective, either are courting student attendees or have maybe student committees where students can get involved and really start building that network prior to joining that respective profession. And that's great. And I've seen some of those virtual networks starting to form with LinkedIn groups and sometimes Twitter chats around different industry topics too. So that's a great point. And lastly, Mary and Katie, anything else on this point, or any final words of wisdom from you two?
Well, I want to just reiterate that no matter how old you are or where you are in your career, there is always somebody else to look up to or somebody to learn from. So to me, mentoring is something that happens your whole life. I still keep in contact, in fact, with my U of M mentor from way back in the day, and it's amazing. And I'm embarking personally on some new things. I've started my own business and different things, and I've actually looked to other people, and I have a mentor who has already started a business and has been helping me along the way. So I want to urge you that this isn't just a college thing. It's something that you do lifelong.
Mm-hmm. Great point. Katie, anything else? You don't have to say anything. Just want to make sure that that we get to you too.
Sure. So I work in an agency setting, and just taking away what I've learned from the formal mentorship program and just growing that relationship with Mary is, I take it upon myself to identify people in the office who I would like to get to know better, or that I really appreciate their working style and want to learn from them. And so sometimes those relationships can kick off in a informal coffee catch up, just to get to know how they got there, and then it can evolve naturally from there without having to be formal. And so with that, as I start to manage interns or incoming entry-level employees, I also can tell that I take it upon myself to sometimes step beyond the manager position and not only help develop their careers within this organization, but how I can help with their career overall. And I think that that's instilled from participating in an initial mentorship program. So definitely something that reaches far beyond college. I think it's important to join the program because you really do learn the value and how to effectively handle these relationships, but it'll be with you for the rest of your career.
Thank you so much, Katie, and I just want to really thank Stacy and Tate, Michelle, and Josh, and also Mary and Katie for taking time to be here today. Thank you so much to our panel.
Thank you.
All right, and that.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. And that concludes it for today. I'd also like to give a big thank you to all of our collegiate mentor programs here at the University of Minnesota. They're the ones that are doing the brass tacks work of mentorship here at the U, and especially colleagues at College of Pharmacy, the College of Liberal Arts, specifically School of Journalism and Mass Communications, and the College of Food, Agricultural, and Natural Resource Sciences. And we'll also be having on December 1st another panel with just mentors only as well. and it'll be another good conversation. And again, that one will be recorded and online as well. And if you'd like to follow the Alumni Association on social media, here's some of our social media information. And in closing, members of the U of M Alumni Association make broadcasts like this possible. Thank you. Because of members, we can enrich the lives of alumni, support student success, and make a better University of Minnesota. If you'd like to become a member, you can visit us at minnesotaalumni.org/join. That's the conclusion of our mentorship webinar today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to our mentors. Thank you to our students. You are building some great lifelong relationships, and we're so proud to have you part of our community of 455,000 alumni worldwide. So have a great day, and we'll talk again soon.